Now last time the prologue was a very long version, so this time I think it's fine to have a short version about conversion to Christianity to avoid the calamity of further attacks, Christianization by force, to show allegiance and alliance. At least that's my thoughts. So in 911, sick of Viking attacks and incursions, Rollo the Viking was asked for allegiance and conversion, and in return he became the ruler of Normandy, it said, the land of the Normans, who'd leave Harald of England dead. For 1,000 years after Jesus, after martyrs, wars, tenacity, most of Europe, even Vikings, were embracing Christianity, except for the Caliph of Cordoba in Andalusian Spain, who built mosques and stopped the northern forces with campaigns. For a century the Cordoban Caliphate ruled Spain, Morocco, Iberia by force or diplomacy from Zaragoza to Valencia. But in Russia, Denmark, Germany, the prominent ideology was the word of God from Rome, or Greek Orthodoxy. The first king to convert, to list them chronologically, was the Viking Harald Bluetooth, before wireless technology, before the internet, before the printing press, so accounts widely differ and are at best a lucky guess. Some claim he was converted by a cleric called Popper. When asked to prove his faith, he picked up a whopping piece of iron from the fire in reply and wasn't burnt. From others writing 100 years later, I have learned, he was forcibly converted after losing the battle. Whatever happened, it's a hassle to unravel the mass and the mess of contrasting reports. But it's a fact that as a Christian, he built roads, bridges, forts. Fueled by the new truth, King Harald Bluetooth was the first to convert, perhaps coerced, but the worst was Vladimir of Kiev, who in 988 wanted ties with Byzantium, so adopted the Greek faith, just to marry the sister of Basil II, having already had several wives, it is reckoned, and 800 concubines in his heady days of paganism. But his marriage was politically convenient in his pagan wisdom. But in order to impress the imperial princess, this polygamous barbarian turned orthodox humanitarian. In 964, Mieszko of Poland was baptized to align with the Czechs and control the likelihood of future attacks, Christianization by force, forcing the collapse of the pagan priest class by his calculated divine course. Now in the 10th century, by far the hottest potentate was the Holy Roman Emperor Otto the Great, who was the King of Italy for a dozen years, and the King of Germany at the same time, it appears. He crushed the pagan Magyars, restoring Christendom's health, and was crowned Emperor in 962 by Pope John XII. And those subjugated German tribes would immediately disparage his wars. He installed cousins into duchies by marriages. A military commander with strategic innovation, he improved bureaucracy, German administration, whilst establishing the literary tradition which was based on patronage. It was the age of Ottonian Renaissance. Around about the same time as Otto was crowned emperor, China, once divided, was united and bound together in 960 by the Song dynasty, who brought philosophy, technology, and the finest tea, issued banknotes, built a navy, grew rice cultivation, invented gunpowder, making wars much louder, and doubled the population. Between Otto and Vladimir came Eric the Red, who didn't convert but was exiled instead. Eric the Red showed disrespect for a neighbouring kinsman, and his banishment as punishment to an island in Iceland must have messed with the head of Eric the Red. As a Viking, he was used to being overfed and interbred, yes, depressed, but a figurehead nonetheless of the local community, brutally and cruelly looting stupid jewellery. So when he was banished, he vanished into ignominious exile, yet today he's remembered for the wondrous achievement of discovering Greenland. good King Wenceslas was stabbed by his younger brother. On the feast of St. Cosmas, he never did recover. Venerated as a saint by priests and academia, immortalized in Christmas song, the martyr of Bohemia. Now I'll try to move away from Europe's castles and Asia's terraces, and let raps occur on Africa and after the Americas. Otherwise we can't refer to it as a rapping history of the world if it favours certain continents and others are unobserved, or unheard of, or purged from history books, so never learnt about. It's absurd to doubt. They've earned and deserve, as far as I'm concerned, a mention. It's my intention to rigorously rap about the history they've given us, whether villainous or indigenous or ambiguous to the syllabus. So Gudit brought Judaism to Ethiopia, then called Aksum, destroying Christian churches and monuments, and some say it was because she was banished from her homeland. Others say she was from Israel and conquered unknown lands. And when her father was killed by the Aksumites, she made this awful decision to raze Ethiopia to the ground. It's hard to know with the oral tradition. The Berbers were displaced, such a pity, by those Arab immigrants who built the city of Cairo. In their mass religious migrations they inspired hope for the spread of Islam on the North African high road. And by migrating west they made it easier to speak Arabic in Egypt, Morocco and Tunisia. Meanwhile in Mexico there flourished the Toltecs, whose architectural projects are viewed as complex, as they're similar to Mayan and their histories from Aztec oral and pictographic tradition, which is at best guesswork, which nonetheless works to glimpse a culture whose tradition is based on ball games and human sacrifice on tetrahedral pyramids. So with Rollo the Viking and Otto the Great, Harald Bluetooth, the Cordoban Caliphate, the technology and philosophy of the Song dynasty, Vladimir of Kiev and his lustful notoriety, and Eric the Red, who was exiled to Greenland, his banishment for punishment, but made it his dreamland. Wenceslas, Gudit, Mieszko, the Toltecs. Dear eager reader, you need to know what's next, as we come to the endium, not just of the century, but also the millennium.